Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive on Agentic AI. All those AI tools that we use, like chatbots or art generators? Well, you can kind of think of those like stepping stones because Agentic AI is a whole other level.
Yeah, it's like this. Imagine an AI that can not only respond to your commands, but can actually like pursue goals on its own and make decisions.
Yeah, and learn from experiences too, right?
Exactly. And it can do all this without needing us humans to constantly like hold its hand. That's the core of what agentic AI is all about.
So it's not just content creation anymore. We're talking about AI that actually takes action.
Exactly. It's like the difference between, having a recipe book and having a personal chef. The recipe book guides you, but a chef takes those ingredients and they use their knowledge and expertise to create a meal. That's kind of what agentic AI does. It takes data and understanding and turns that into real-world actions.
So let's break this down. How would we even define agentic AI and what makes it so different from the AI that we've seen in the past?
I think one of the most important things is autonomy. This means that agentic AI can act independently without needing humans to supervise it all the time.
Okay, so it's independent. What else?
It's also capable of reasoning and making decisions based on, the information it has and the context.
So it can figure things out on its own.
And on top of that, it also learns from its experiences through something called reinforced learning, just like we do. So it's constantly improving over time.
So we've got an independent AI that can figure things out and learns as it goes. That sounds like a pretty potent combination. How does this even work in practice?
You could think of it like building a house. You have all these different specialists, right? The architects, the plumbers, the electricians. Each one has a specific skill. In agentic AI, those specialists are called AI agents.
So instead of one AI trying to do it all, we have these specialized agents working together.
Exactly. And they each have a particular function and work with all the other agents to accomplish these complex tasks. So let's say, for example, you're working on a coding project.
Okay, so how would these AI agents be used in that situation?
Well, you could have one agent that focuses on generating that basic code structure based on your instructions, and then another agent whose job it is to make sure that the code meets like all the industry standards.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then you could even have another one that would run tests and find bugs. They would all be working together seamlessly.
That's pretty amazing. It sounds like something like that could really speed up development. But how do we even design and build a system like that? It sounds so complex.
So there are four core principles that guide the architecture of agentic AI. Think of these as like the foundation of any agentic AI system.
Okay, so like the pillars that it's all built on. What's the first one?
The first one is modularity. So it's kind of like building with Legos. Each module has a very specific function, and you can easily assemble them, rearrange them, or swap them out if you need to.
So it's flexible and you can adapt it to different situations. What's next?
Scalability is really important too. The system needs to be able to handle just tons of data and really complex tasks.
So it's going to be built to grow.
Exactly. Think of it like a city that's constantly growing.
Right.
It needs to be able to accommodate that expansion without getting bogged down or becoming chaotic. Things like cloud computing and distributed systems help make that possible. Then there's interoperability.
Okay, so what's that all about?
Well, in a multi-agent system, all these different agents need to be able to communicate really well and work together smoothly.
So it's all about teamwork.
Exactly. They need to have kind of a shared language and a common understanding of what the overall goal is. It's like an orchestra. Everyone needs to be playing in sync. And last but not least, we have reinforcement learning.
Okay, so fill us in on that one. What's that all about?
Think of it like how we train pets.
Oh, okay. I get you.
You reward good behavior and you discourage bad behavior. And over time, the pet learns which actions are going to get the desired outcome.
And so agentic AI learns the same way.
Yeah. Agentic AI systems learn through trial and error, too. They refine their actions based on the feedback that they get, and they get better each time.
This learning aspect seems like it's really central to agentic AI. It's not just about programming a static set of rules. It's about systems that can adapt and improve on their own.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that makes agentic AI so powerful.
Now, we've talked about these AI agents working together, but what about the individual agents themselves? What are they made of? What makes an AI agent tick?
Each agent has three main components:
Okay, what are they?
the prompt, the memory, and the tools.
Okay, let's start with the prompt. What is that?
The prompt is basically a set of instructions
Okay.
that define the agent's goals, boundaries, and the methods that it can use.
So it's like you're giving the AI agent its marching orders.
Exactly. You're telling it what it needs to do and how it should do it. Then you have the memory. And just like our memories, the AI agent's memory stores all of its knowledge.
So it uses that knowledge to make better decisions in the future.
Exactly. It helps it understand the context, recognize patterns, and make more informed choices.
It's like the AI agent's personal library of everything that it's learned. And finally, what about the tools? What does that mean?
The tools are the resources that the agent needs to do its job. This might be like access to databases or APIs that allow it to talk to other systems, or even the ability to just execute code. Think of it like a toolbox with everything it needs to get the job done.
So it has its instructions, it has its knowledge base, and it has its toolkit. Earlier, you mentioned different types of agentic AI systems. Can you tell me more about those?
Of course, the most basic is a single agent system, which means one agent handles everything for a task. This is a good approach for straightforward tasks where you really need that centralized decision making. Imagine a simple chatbot answering customer questions.
Right, so if it's a pretty simple task, a single agent might be all that you need. But what about when things get more complicated?
That's when you would use what's called a multi-agent system. These systems use multiple agents, and they all have their own specializations and roles. They come together to tackle those really complex tasks.
So it's like putting together a team of experts.
Exactly. For instance, let's say you're trying to automate a complicated business process, like processing insurance claims.
Okay, how could these agents help with that?
Well, you might have one agent that gathers the initial information, and then another agent assesses the claim, another one handles communication with the customer, and a final agent makes the final decision.
So you get more flexibility and power to deal with these really challenging tasks. How do these agents all work together?
There are different ways to coordinate them. Some systems have a hierarchical structure where you have like a master agent that gives out the tasks and supervises the other agents. Other approaches are more decentralized and allow the agents to communicate directly with each other.
So there are a lot of different ways to structure these systems. It's not just about having a bunch of agents. It's about making sure they can actually work together effectively.
Right. And how you choose to coordinate them really depends on what you're trying to do and how complex the task is.
This is all super fascinating. It seems like we're really changing how we use AI. It's not just simple tools anymore, it's these complex systems. But with all this complexity, there must be a lot of challenges to integrating agentic AI into real-world situations.
There definitely are. It's not as easy as just plugging in a new piece of tech.
Yeah.
There's a lot of planning and customization involved. We'll dive into those considerations and look at some real-world applications after a quick break.
So before the break, we were discussing how complicated it can be to implement agentic AI in the real world. It's more than just the tech itself. It's about how it all fits into real-world scenarios.
You got it. Think of it like this. Imagine you buy this, state-of-the-art robot chef, but then you realize you don't have the right kitchen or the ingredients, all that potential, but you can't actually use it, right?
Right, you need the whole setup.
Exactly. That's why when we talk about agentic AI, customization and integration are so important.
So it's like getting a suit tailored, making sure it fits perfectly. What's involved in that customization process?
It all starts with, really getting a deep understanding of what the organization needs and what their goals are. What problems are they trying to solve? What kind of data do they have access to?
You have to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, and you have to look at their existing workflows and systems. Once you have that clear picture, then you can start tailoring that agentic AI solution to fit.
So it's a team effort between the AI people and the folks who really know the ins and outs of the business.
Definitely. It's more than just plugging in some new tech.
Yeah.
You got to figure out how to use that technology to actually make existing processes better and more efficient. For example, let's say you're bringing agentic AI into a healthcare setting.
Okay.
You would want to work really closely with doctors and nurses.
Yeah, to understand their needs.
To understand how they work and how the AI can be integrated to actually help them in their decision-making.
It's fascinating how agentic AI can be used in so many different areas. In the research, we saw this one example of how it's being used to improve code and quality management in software development.
That's a perfect example because, software development is just getting more and more complex. Agentic AI can really streamline a lot of those processes and automate things, which frees up developers to, focus on more creative stuff.
I can see how that would be a huge plus in an industry that moves so fast. How exactly is agentic AI being used to make coding faster and improve the quality of the code?
Let's say you're a developer working on a new feature. Instead of writing all the code, you can actually just describe what you want the code to do in plain English. And an AI agent can actually generate that basic code structure for you.
Wow.
That saves so much time and lets developers really focus on the, more complex parts of the feature.
It's like having this AI assistant that just gets you, knows what you want to do, and turns it into code.
That's a great way to put it. But then how do we make sure that code is good?
That's a good question. I mean, anyone can write code, but good code is another thing.
Right. That's where other AI agents come in. You could have agents that, specialize in code review. They can automatically check for errors, make sure the code is following best practices, and even compare it to existing code to avoid, unnecessary duplication.
It's like having an entire team of expert code reviewers available 24/7.
Exactly. They're
Yeah, that's one
constantly
thing.
monitoring and improving that code base. And then there's testing. That's another super important part of development.
For sure, you got to make sure everything works as it should.
Right. And agentic AI can automate that testing process as well. You can have agents that automatically create those test cases, run the tests, and then analyze all the results. This not only speeds up the testing process, but also makes it a lot more thorough and reliable.
It seems like agentic AI could really change the game for software development, improving efficiency and quality. But like with any really powerful tech, there are some things to consider before jumping in head first.
You're absolutely right. There's a lot of potential, but you have to be thoughtful about how you approach it.
The research mentioned several key considerations for, organizations that are thinking about using agentic AI. One that stuck out was this concept of explainability.
Yeah, explainability is super important because AI systems are getting so complex and they're becoming more autonomous, so we need to be able to understand how they're making decisions. We have to be able to trace the logic behind their actions.
So it's not just about the AI giving us the right answer, it's about understanding how it got there.
Exactly. And this is especially important in fields like healthcare, finance, where the impact of these decisions can be really big.
High stakes.
Yeah, if an AI system is recommending a treatment plan or making investment decisions, we need to be able to understand why.
It's about trust and transparency, making sure we're not just blindly following the AI.
Another important thing is data privacy and security. Agentic AI needs a lot of data to learn and make decisions, so protecting that data is crucial.
Especially with all the data breaches and privacy concerns these days.
Exactly. Organizations have to have those strong security measures in place to protect the data their AI systems use.
Hmm.
Things like encryption, access controls, and they need to have regular security audits.
So it's about the AI itself, but also about making sure the environment where the data lives is secure. What about errors? I mean, any system can have a glitch, right?
That's right. Organizations need to have plans for what to do if there are errors or failures. This could mean having backup systems, fallback mechanisms, or even human experts who can step in if needed.
Like a safety net, just in case things go wrong.
Exactly. You're managing risks, making sure that you're not completely reliant on AI without some safeguards. Now, even with all of these things to consider, the benefits of agentic AI are huge. But there's also this bigger question about, what's the role of humans as these systems get more powerful? That's the million-dollar question. Some people think AI will eventually replace a lot of human jobs, and others think that it'll create new opportunities.
The research emphasized that although agentic AI has a lot of potential, human expertise is still really important, at least for now.
I totally agree. We still need human experts to train these AI systems, to provide feedback, monitor their performance, and make sure they're being used ethically. It's more about humans and AI working together than AI taking over.
So finding that balance between AI doing its thing and humans being in control. But as AI keeps evolving, that balance might shift.
Definitely. As AI gets more sophisticated, we might see a move towards more autonomous AI, and humans will have more of a supervisory role.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, we need that human expertise to make sure AI is being used safely and effectively. The research also discussed something really fascinating that's connected to the future of agentic AI, which is synthetic data. What can you tell us about that?
Synthetic data. Okay, what is that?
Well, synthetic data is basically artificial data.
Artificial data, so not real data.
Right. But it's created to be like real data without any personal information. It's kind of like creating a virtual copy of a data set, so you get the patterns and relationships of the real data without any of the sensitive stuff.
So it's a way to protect privacy while still using data to train AI.
Exactly. This is becoming so important because getting access to real-world data can be really hard. There are privacy concerns, regulations, and sometimes it's just really expensive to get and manage large data sets.
So synthetic data gives us a way to get around those limitations.
Right. It opens up all these possibilities for training AI, especially for tasks where that real-world data is scarce or hard to come by. Let's say, for example, you want to train an AI to, detect a really rare disease.
Okay.
You might not have enough data from real patients to train the AI properly.
Right.
But with synthetic data, you can actually create a huge data set that has all those characteristics of the disease, which would allow you to train an AI model that's more robust and accurate.
That's amazing. Using synthetic data could really make a difference in solving some tough real-world problems, but I imagine there are some challenges with synthetic data as well.
Of course. One of the biggest challenges is making sure that the synthetic data is a good representation of what we see in the real world. If it's not accurate, then the AI models trained on that data won't work well in real-world scenarios.
So it's not just about making up data, it's about creating data that really reflects the real world.
Right. A lot of research is focused on improving the quality and realism of synthetic data. There are techniques like generative adversarial networks, or GNs, that are being used to create synthetic data that's almost impossible to tell apart from real data.
Wow, it's like having an AI artist that can paint a super realistic picture, even though it's all from imagination.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
As the tech gets better, we can expect synthetic data to play an even bigger role in developing and using AI, especially in areas like agentic AI, where we need a lot of data. This deep dive into agentic AI has been incredibly insightful. We've talked about so much, the core concepts, the real-world applications, and all the things to consider for responsible implementation. What are some key things you want our listeners to take away from our discussion today?
I think the main takeaway is that agentic AI is not some far-off thing in the future. It's happening now, and it's going to change how we live and work in some big ways. We're entering this new era where AI isn't just a tool, it's more like a partner that can help us solve complex problems. It's pretty mind-blowing to think about the possibilities, but with all this power comes a lot of responsibility, right?
Absolutely. As we get more comfortable with agentic AI, we have to be aware of the ethical implications, the potential risks, and how important human oversight is. We need to be careful and work together to make sure AI is being used to make things better for everyone.
It really does feel like we're on the verge of something huge with this agentic AI. It's exciting, but a little intimidating too, all the possibilities.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like we've been exploring this little area, and suddenly we can see this vast landscape that's just waiting to be explored.
And like with any new territory, there's that mix of, oh, cool, this is great, but also, what if there's something scary lurking out there? The research didn't shy away from the potential downsides either.
Right, and I think one of the biggest concerns is making sure that these agentic AI systems are actually working towards human goals and values. We don't want to create AI that ends up being harmful to society.
We're basically giving them a lot of freedom to make their own decisions, so we have to make sure they're making good ones.
Exactly. We have to be really careful about how we design and train these systems, making sure that they're following ethical principles and doing what's best for us.
The research talked about the importance of putting safeguards into these systems.
Definitely. We need to think about things like accountability, transparency, and control. How do we make sure that these AI systems are making fair decisions? How can we understand why they're doing what they're doing?
Yeah, how do we stay in control when they're becoming more and more independent?
Those are the tough questions, and they're not easy to answer.
No, they're not.
But I think it's really important that we're having these discussions right now as we're building and using these technologies. We need to try to anticipate the challenges and find ways to reduce the risks before they become serious problems.
It's kind of like we're trying to write a constitution for AI, setting up the ground rules.
That's a great way to put it. We need a framework for developing AI responsibly, one that ensures these technologies are used for good.
And it's not just the responsibility of the tech companies that are developing AI. It's on all of us, policymakers, researchers, and just society in general.
Absolutely. We all need to work together to make sure AI is developed and used safely, ethically, and for everyone's benefit. This deep dive has really given us a lot to think about.
I'm leaving this conversation with a whole new understanding of just how complex agentic AI is.
Yes, that's a common reaction.
Yeah.
It's a field that's full of challenges, but also has so much potential.
As our listeners keep exploring this world of agentic AI, what are some key takeaways you want them to remember?
I think the most important thing is to stay informed and stay involved. This field is constantly evolving, so keeping up with the latest developments is really important. There are tons of resources available online, like research papers, articles, podcasts, all sorts of things.
And it's important to remember that AI is not just a technical thing. It impacts our society, our economy, and it brings up a lot of ethical questions. We all need to be part of these discussions about how AI is shaping our world.
That's right. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Challenge what you hear and really think critically about AI's role in our lives. The future of AI is something we're all creating together.
This has been an amazing journey exploring agentic AI. We've talked about how it works, what it can do, the challenges, and the ethical questions it raises. It's a topic that's going to keep us all fascinated and make us rethink things for years to come.
I agree. It's a field that's full of promise and potential pitfalls. We all need to pay attention and be part of the conversation.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of agentic AI. We hope you enjoyed it, and we encourage you to keep learning about this game-changing technology.